Hey, welcome, folks. This is the keynote address for Union Days 2023. Really pleased to welcome you all here today. We're going to be hearing our keynote address from our Alice B. Grant Labor Leaders in Residence. We've got here from the Amazon Labor Union, our president of it, Chris Smalls, and Vice President Derek Palmer. And we're going to introduce them in a second. A little about Union Days, just to kick us off. Union Days is one of the most important programs of the year, run by our Worker Institute. I want to shout out to the faculty and staff of the Worker Institute and to their director, Risa Leibowitz. But we do also have a lot of co-sponsors. So I want to recognize all the co-sponsors for Union Days. That includes the People's Organizing Collective Cornell, the Graduate Labor Organization, the ILR Graduate Student Association, the ILR Office of Career Services, Cornell Law School, Cornell Center for the Study of Inequality, Cornell Law and Society minor, Cornell Farm Worker Program, and the Cornell chapter of the AAUP. Now, this is a special event also because there's a lot of student involvement in organizing Union Days. And I want a big shout out to the students who have been involved in organizing Union Days this year. That includes Danielle Donovan, Nick Wilson, Grant Marvek, Alejandra Quintero, and Della Walters. So big round of applause for the students. So it's important to recognize the staff who put a lot of work into making events happen here. So I want to do a big shout out to the admin assistants, Emily Cobman and Pam Geldner. To our communications team, Jen Morley and Betsy Wiggers. And the tech team who makes all the magic happen, Mike Hafflett and John Stern. The theme of Union Days 2023 is Talkin' Union. And it's hard to think of a better pair of speakers to hear from at Talkin' Union this year than the leaders who've been doing the organizing at Amazon with the Amazon Labor Union. One of the most exciting and interesting organizing efforts we've seen in years. Amazon obviously is one of the largest, most powerful employers in this country. I believe it's the second largest private sector employer in America, and really something that reaches into all of our lives across the economy, across society. They're organizing, taking on a real behemoth of the modern American economy. And so when you think about labor relations, this is as important as it gets. It's a really titanic struggle to be taking on, and they're right at the heart of it. Before I say more, though, I'm going to turn over to somebody who could do a much better job telling me a little more about Chris Smalls and Derek Palmer. I'm going to turn over to our own Alejandra Quintero, who's going to do an introduction of them.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alejandra. Thank you, Dean Colvin. I'm going to keep this short because I know I want to hear from Chris Smalls and Derek Palmer, but it's been a little bit over a year since these guys and their coworkers made union history. I remember I was back in LA when I got the notification from the New York Times that said that the Staten Island warehouse workers in Amazon had won their election and had beat Jeff Bezos and his bozos. And I remember thinking we are living through history. I was like, holy shit, like not only did this rock the labor movement, like it rocked the world. And you know, everyone doubted their ability to win, from labor experts to seasoned organizers, and it was because we had forgotten the fundamental part of organizing, and that's having faith in workers, believing that it's possible for all of us to win. We're excited to have a discussion with our comrades who speak truth to power. And the truth is that the workplace is a fight over that power. It is inherently a conflict of interest between the power of bosses and that of workers, a power that is used either to exploit us or a power to protect us. And unionizing creates a power to protect our dignity and our humanity as workers. The beauty is that anyone who's had a job knows that this fight is real, it's hard, it's terrible, it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. And it's beautiful to experience. It's beautiful because it reminds us of what collective action can accomplish, even when we're fighting the most powerful and the most rich. But most importantly, this fight is energizing and it is contagious. It's contagious because we see ourselves in their struggle because it is our struggle. The rank and file members of the ALU took on one of the richest, most powerful companies in the world, and they won. It is my honor and privilege to moderate this talk with our working class heroes. We will listen to them talk about their experience organizing, and then we will open up questions from the audience. Thank you. Let's have some fun and solidarity with the working class everywhere. So I don't know which one of you two want to go ahead and start.
Well, first, I want to address the elephant in the room. How many people in here is on the human resource side? Oh, y'all laughing, huh? Raise your hand if you're on the human resource side. Be embarrassed. Okay. Okay, labor is on the other side, I guess, right? Okay. Now, look to your left and look to your right and say, I got your back. I got your back. I got your back. I can't hear you. You're laughing. We're going, wait, hold on. We're going to do this. We're going to do this again. Raise your hand if you're on the human resource side. All right. Laborers. And now look to the left, look to the right and say, I got your back. I got your back. I got your back. Now going forward, I play for the same team. That team is the working class. No matter what industry you're in, no matter where you're going to get hired, don't forget about where you came from. So this is very important. The reason why I did that is I've been hearing about both sides and it's cool. I want to see that. But you know what's the way we move forward is having uncomfortable conversations. But understanding that this fight that we're fighting and the struggle that we're in, we're all in the same struggle together. This is your fight, our fight, Amazon Labor Union fight, Starbucks, Workers United fight, Trader Joe's, Apple, Google. These are all places where you probably want to, if not organize or have a career path in the future. If not, can't avoid it anyway, because in the next few years, 1 out of every 4 Americans will have worked or know somebody who worked at Amazon. So important to know that this fight is your fight, because maybe one day yourself, family member, even maybe even your children one day may work for this company. And if we don't do anything about it, guess what? No, the planet is over. Life is over. Humanity is over, right? So the first word in human resources is human. And the way we got here, trust me, I tried to go through the proper channels, and I'll give you an example of just to summarize our journey. 3 years ago, me and Derek, we were just living our lives. We were on our way to, rest in peace, a Pop Smoke concert 3 years ago. We were hanging out, going to parties, going to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Got no intentions on organizing the union, no intentions on going up against Amazon. We were just living our lives. We were regular, workers trying to do the right thing, stand up and speak up about COVID-19, the life or death situation. Led a walkout that led to my firing after Amazon Human Resources failed to communicate properly with its workers. I went to Human Resource the first day I saw on CNN the virus was in this country. And Human Resources, understanding that you're a part of a system that you don't really get to change the decision making. You get told what to do, and you have to regurgitate that to workers, right? You have to keep the system and operations going, and your job is to remove barriers. And the funny thing about it is I have a lot of people, a lot of friends that are in HR, and thankfully they were able to, help me with certain insight information. But when it came to picking a side of life and death, this is before COVID vaccine. And I went to them and I said, hey, we're unprotected. We have no PPE, no facial mask, no cleaning supplies. We're sitting shoulder to shoulder like you guys in the cafeteria. You guys are at risk too. And their answer was, follow the CDC guidelines. Or not really an answer at all, or we'll get back to you in a few days. Meanwhile, New York City became the epicenter of the world. People were dying every 15 minutes. And the virus was already in the building. HR knew about that. For management knew about that. But there are 5, 6, 7, 8,000 workers that come to work from all 5 boroughs and New Jersey did not, including myself. Wasn't until me and Derek decided to make that decision to stand up after they told me in a managerial meeting not to tell a worker like Derek or any entry-level worker that people were in the building positive, that they were going to do it their way, which obviously wasn't working. So reason why I bring this up and the reason why I want you guys to stand, don't forget where you come from, because it's going to come a point in time when you have to pick a side. And no matter what your political views is, what your ideology is, no matter where you come from, what your background is, ethnicity, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the only enemy is always going to be the boss. There's only one enemy. And that is the 1%, that is the corporation, and that is the boss. So we can build off of that commonality in this room today, going forward, whatever career path you in, when you see your brothers and sisters out in the field or in, organizing efforts, y'all won't forget this moment here today. Hopefully not. So just remember, you guys have to have each other's backs. It's a lot more of us than it is of them. And our fight is your fight is our fight. So I just wanted to break the ice on that before I continue on. And I'm glad that you guys participate. I got another exercise for you. How many of y'all are Prime users? Shop on Amazon? Raise your hand. Maybe y'all crossing the picket line. God damn. No, I'm joking. But how many of y'all, out of all your hands that was raised, keep them up, by the way. I want to see you real quick. How many of y'all was doing that 8 years ago? Right. So that tells you right now, because I already hear people like, I need Amazon. That just proved to yourselves that you don't really need the company. Y'all, it's Amazon adapted to us, or we adapted to Amazon. And problem is with society, Amazon's been around 29 years. And for the last 10 years, they've been ramping up in productivity. And trust me, 1 and 2 has been a part of that, that growth. And I've never shopped there. I just don't see, I don't know. I call it a drug that you guys got to wean yourselves off of because you get hooked. And it's unfortunate because I have my own family members that I'm like arguing with about it. And I'm like, you give me your money to one company, to one man that's flying to space on a penis rocket, that's exploiting the community that you come from. So once again, go to your local main streets in whatever community you grew up in. It's not the same. Who remember Toys R Us? Where is it? Right. Because you're giving your money to Amazon instead of going to shopping in person at Toys R Us. Barnes and Nobles. Who used to read there? Where is it? It's online now. So understand, you give your money to one company, you having the luxury of one-click buy. Understand there's a process to get that package there. And you're affecting multiple people, not just one person. You're affected maybe 8 to 10 different people in multiple different warehouses, just so you can have same-day shipping, 2-day shipping, same afternoon. Meanwhile, you're putting individuals at risk, literally putting their lives on the line, body parts on the line, their health on the line, their well-being, living check to check. Some of them are homeless, some of them are in shelters, not making a decent wage. Some of them working 2 or 3 jobs. Some of them working 60+ hours, mandatory extra time all year long. Understanding that you hit one-click buy, you're affecting 10 different people. You're affecting what's going on in your own community. You're helping Amazon put other businesses out of business. And now this company is now going to be looking at your medical records because they just bought a medical company. They continue to monopolize in this country. And this is the side that now you got to make a decision. What side are you on? And the reason why we like to do these events and come speak to students and the younger generation is because you guys got to take the reins and lead the way after it's all said and done. And understand that your side is going to be what shapes the future of not just labor, but society as a whole in this country. Where do we spend our money? How much we value family time? And how much can we fight for a better quality of life? You know, one job should be enough, right? But you're going to get into your workforce and you're going to realize a lot of these jobs, you know, people are like, if you don't like the job, quit. That doesn't solve the issue. You're only jumping from one fire into the next because union density in this country is less than 10%. So once again, the only way we can really stand up, fight back, is to understand our worth, understand our value as essential workers. If we're an essential worker, that means that we're a necessity. That means that they need us. And like I just proved to you, it's already more of us than it is of them. We people was the only way to beat Amazon, $1 trillion company. Wasn't money, wasn't the support of other established unions that's been around for hundreds of years. It wasn't the support of politicians or celebrities. It was workers having several conversations for over 300 days at a bus stop, inside, outside the building, on the shop floor, building relationships, earning the trust of one another, and becoming our own cavalry, because we realized there was nobody else coming for us. And our campaign has proven that. So remind yourselves that organizing is difficult. You're going to have days of doubt, days of defeat, days when you don't feel like talking to anybody, days when nobody may even talk to you. 2 or 3 months go by, they won't say a word. But understand that you signed up for a fight that is longevity, a fight that you have to commit yourself to for the long haul. And you have to have several conversations, not just one. And, you know, once again, remind yourselves where you came from. Don't forget about it. And you'll have great success. So I know I've done a lot of talking, and I'm definitely going to pass it to my brother, Derek Palmer, the Vice President of the Amazon Labor Union.
How you guys doing? My name is Derek Palmer, the Vice President of Amazon Labor Union. I'm also an 8-year Amazon worker as well. So I started in 2015. at Robbinsville, New Jersey. There was an Amazon there. And after 3 years, I transferred to JFKH, Staten Island, in 2018. So, originally, I had no idea, how powerful unions were. I was just going to work, 9 to 5, doing what I had to do. So eventually, I wanted to excel in the company because originally I thought Amazon was actually a good thing. My experience was that it's not. It exploits workers. Workers are getting fired left and right, and ultimately they have no voice. But that's not who I am as a person. I always use my voice. I always express my concerns. So I knew that when Amazon decided to keep me at entry level, that they didn't want me to voice my opinion so that I can make changes to Amazon, the necessary changes that we want. So they like to, number one, they don't like to move up Black and brown workers. I want y'all to know that. They want workers who are pretty much yes men. So like workers who are literally like buddy with management, those are the ones who excel in Amazon and become the leaders. So, Amazon didn't work out for me the way that I wanted it to. And after going years and years of trying to, get promotions and getting denied, I ultimately kind of checked out mentally. And, looking for other jobs, of course, that's not easy. So when 2019, I actually met Chris. Chris was my supervisor. And quickly we clicked. We're both from single mother homes. You know what I mean? We're both at Amazon. He was a process assistant. I was entry level, a tier 1. And we both tried to move up with the company. And we were facing the same criticism, basically. So, we instantly became friends, hanging out. And the pandemic came. Once the pandemic came, that changed everything. Workers weren't, they weren't having the masks and gloves, the proper protection that they needed. And no one was saying nothing about it. No workers were saying anything. They were just talking amongst themselves. Me and Chris had a different objective. We were like, listen, you guys are going to protect us. We're at this company 40 plus hours a week, and we're not getting our just due. We're not even getting promoted, even though we rightfully deserve it. And on top of that, you're putting our lives at risk. Chris has kids, you know what I'm saying? I have family members. All these workers here have family members, and we're at risk of passing this deadly virus to them. So we knew that, we had to do something. We had to use our voices to talk to HR, which failed us, to talk to management, which failed us. And, ultimately, they wanted to pretty much silence us. So us taking that initiative to talk to workers and tell them, look, you deserve more. We need these masks. We need these proper protections, especially now during the pandemic. We don't know anything about this virus. We just know that people are getting sick and they're passing away. So when Chris found out that a worker tested positive, of course, he went and told me. Management told him, don't say anything. Don't worry about it. We got it under control. We'll tell all the workers. Of course, they didn't do that. So once we both found out, that the worker tested positive, we went home and we decided to game plan and figure out how we're going to address the workers and tell them what's happening, because we knew Amazon wasn't going to do it. So that's what we did. That next day, we went to work. We didn't even clock in. Stood in front of the building and we asked every worker, do you know about the person who tested positive? All of them said no. So then, we stood inside of the cafeteria, and every worker that came inside, we told them, look, there's a worker who tested positive. No, Amazon isn't doing, they're not doing the right thing. They're not giving us the protection. And, ultimately they're in outrage. They're like, wait, so Amazon knows that someone tested positive. We're in here, we're not social distance at all. Don't have the protection. What are they doing? So bringing these workers into the office is what we did. We did that for 3 days. You know, we brought a group of 20 workers in there and we expressed our concerns. We're like, look, you guys are going to do something for us. Like, we need the proper protection. Their response was, oh, well, you know, we're doing everything we can, but we'll get back to you about, you know, what we can do. So we stood in that break room for 10 hours each day. At the end of each day, they said, well, you know, we pretty much did all we could do. And, you know, we talked to the higher ups and there's nothing else that we can do. Well, now we're just like, we're stuck. We're like, okay, guys are talking about your higher ups isn't going to do anything. What are y'all going to do? What is HR going to do? What is the management here going to do for the workers that are risking their lives to come here to produce for y'all? And, you know, we didn't get anywhere with that. So we decided, you know what, we're going to have a walkout. We're going to take this to another level. And that's what we did. You know, March 30th, 2020, you know, it's like a famous day for us and for the labor movement, because that walkout that we had was legendary, you know, to the point they had to fire Chris to silence him and discipline me, give me a final write-up, even though they know that they were in the wrong. They tried to flip the script on us and say that we're being unsafe when we're the ones advocating for the proper protections that we need, which is uncalled for. But we knew that, you know, them trying to silence us means that we're making progress. That's what we did. You know, we continue to fight for Amazon workers, not just at JFK 8, but around the country. So traveling to all of Jeff Bezos' mansions, you know, throughout the United States, speaking out against the conditions at Amazon is something we had to do. And we formed the Congress of Essential Workers, a nonprofit, you know, fighting for, you know, essential workers, basically. So when we heard about Bessemer was the first one to get an actual election, Bessemer, Alabama. So we were like, you know what, this is very powerful. And they were getting a lot of traction throughout the media. And we're like, you know what, let's figure out how we're gonna take this to another level. We traveled to Alabama and we met the organizers there, we met the union there. And, you know, ultimately we're like, there has to be something that we can do to support them. We thought that, you know, having a rally, you know, speaking to the workers would be beneficial to them, but they didn't really want anything to do with us. They was like, you know what, we got it under control. We're going to bring these politicians in. That's it. In the back of our minds, we're like, wait, we're workers. You don't want workers to support you. You want the politicians to come and speak. Okay, fine. So we knew that there was an issue there. We knew that, you know, we had to have a different game plan than what they had. And what we noticed is that when we were out there, we were talking to those workers, and they didn't really know about the union fight. They didn't know about the union drive that's happening in their building. Other workers were saying they did know, but they didn't want to get involved. They were going to vote no. And there were other few workers that said they'll vote yes. So we're like, there's an issue here. You guys are about to have the first election for Amazon for a union ever. And you mean to tell me that your workers don't, half of them are no, and like a small percentage is saying yes? So we knew that we had to do something. So, you know, after that trip was done, we pretty much knew, like, okay, we're going to have to do our own thing. You know, we're workers fighting for other workers. So it'll work. You know, we're in New York. It's a pro-labor state, pro-union state. And we're just going to have to do what we got to do, because we knew that, you know, respect to them, we knew that it wasn't going to work out in their favor. And that's what happened. You know, they did lose that election by a large margin. So we said, you know what, this is the perfect time. And, you know, we're going to do it. You know, April 20th, 2022 is when we launched that campaign. And we stood outside for 365 days, like Chris said. You know, I was working on the inside. You know, at the time I was a 6-year veteran, and we had other organizers, you know, who recruited to help us out in our campaign. So, you know, understand that workers empowering other workers is really the new wave. Respect to the established unions, but independent unions, they can do as much, in fact, probably more. But that 11-month campaign was intense. It wasn't easy at all. Like, you guys probably think it was easy, but it wasn't. What really helped us out there was the fact that I was a worker. This was a former process assistant who was fired for fighting for other workers. And we had other organizers who was on the inside organizing on their break times, organizing after the shift was over, sometimes even before the shift. We stood outside at that bus stop. We were talking to workers sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning, getting authorization cards signed. So it took a lot of people power, took a lot of one-on-one connections from us and the workers to really get the job done. Also in the inside-outside game, how we got it done. And, traditionally, you're supposed to file with over 80% of your workers who signed authorization cards, but that was impossible. It was impossible because of the 150% turnover ratio. By the time we got to 80%, all those workers who signed those cards are terminated. So we had to file with the minimum 30%, which is required from the National Labor Relations Board. And, it worked. We got over 3,000 signatures in 11 months. And, once it was time to go to the election, that's when Amazon really, really tried to amp up the union busting efforts. The captive audience meetings were held throughout the campaign, but after we actually had official dates for the election, that's when it got intense. But again, people power was able to overcome because you had workers like myself on the inside. When these captive audience meetings took place, I stood up and said, no, half of that is bullshit, if we're being real. All the lies that they're trying to spew in these workers' heads, that would have gotten to them had the workers not been in the building organizing. So understand that organizing against Amazon is not just, just go out there and just start organizing. You have to really have a game plan, and you have to really be confrontational. You got to be confrontational with the union bosses. You got to be in the workers' faces, empowering them, telling them how having a union can really change it, can change the work area. So we were successful. We were able to win. We won by over 500 votes. And, it wasn't just we barely won. We clearly beat them. So, of course, they tried, after we won, they tried to say that, we cheated, which obviously didn't happen because they have all the advantages. They have the billions of dollars. They have the access to them, to the workers. They can send a text message, a union busting text message, which they did. But worker power overcame all of that. And here we are today. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into, but it's a positive thing what we're doing. And the labor movement hasn't seen anything like this in over 100 years. But I think it just goes to show that, worker power is so powerful that even a company like Amazon can't even overcome that. And that's what keeps me motivated, knowing that the workers trust us. We're going to create a better work environment for them, and we're going to continue fighting for them. And, this movement changed my life. It changed Chris' life. And, now we're here as labor leaders, and I couldn't be more proud to be here with you all. So thank you all.
Thank you, guys. Thank you both. I'm just gonna go ahead and see if anybody has a question. If not, I could ask them questions all day, but if someone has a question, I could, okay.
Hi, thank you for being here today and for the work you guys are doing. So I actually want to ask a question about police unions. So you mentioned that the national union penetration is, less than 10%. A majority of that is made up by police union members, and that's been very controversial. Even here in Ithaca, we've seen local community members coming out against the police and then being labeled in turn by the police union as anti-labor. And arguing that they themselves should be seen as a part of the labor movement. So I wanted to ask, as people who are looked to as national labor leaders, what your thoughts on the police unions are and their place in the labor movement.
You ask me, I've been arrested by the police union. They have no place in the labor movement. They're not workers. That's just a fact. I think that's a no-brainer, unanimous decision right there. I mean, yeah, unfortunately, this is the message that I'm talking about. Not forgetting where you came from. Where do you think police officers come from? They're not being paid well either. They got their own problems, and I don't care to know. But I tell you this: at the end of the day, they have a family, they have husband, wife, and let me tell you, a lot of them work at Amazon. Their wives and their children work at Amazon. So, we can't, we can sit here all day criticize police unions, but the systemic issue is the root cause of it. Protecting a corporation, that's the problem. How do police unions protect corporate power over people? And they're supposed to protect and serve at the same time? That doesn't, it contradicts itself. So this is another thing about where your money is going. As you Prime users, you think your donations to Amazon's Prime is going to? It's going to these police unions. It's going to the Ring camera. Who has Ring camera here? Or their family member have Ring camera. Well, your police union is watching your house every day because they have partnerships with the local police departments. The Ring camera, the Alexa, all of these devices that Amazon owns, their surveillance, the AWS, those are contracts with the government, with the CIA, the FBI. Amazon has on payroll. They have over 55 retired and active FBI agents on payroll right now. They have the largest military contract. It's AWS. So understand once again where your money is going, what type of company y'all supporting. People don't see this, they don't hear about this, they don't talk about this, but you're supporting a company that is literally exploiting the working class every day in different ways that you can't even fathom. So this is what I mean by not forgetting about where you guys come from. And that goes for police officers, but I'm not going to have that conversation with them. That's for their own moral compass. We know that they're not on labor side. I would never invite a police union to one of our events. There's no solidarity there. No, until they protect people, which forget about that. That's a whole nother conversation. But the systemic issue is that police unions protect corporations because corporations have their hand in their back pockets. And until that, and the same thing with politicians. Politicians should be holding these companies and corporations accountable, and they ain't doing shit because going to their shareholder events, they're going to Jeff Bezos' private parties on his yacht. They're taking money, they're taking endorsements. Understand where our money. If you follow the money, you understand how evil the company is. It starts to unravel.
Derek, I don't know if you want to add something.
Hi, thanks for speaking today. It's been really great to hear you guys talk. So I remember learning in class about how a lot of corporations spend like millions of dollars union busting. They have a lot of financial resources to do so. And Biden likes to promote himself as a very pro-labor president. And I guess I was wondering on the national level or what you guys think the Biden administration can do to improve and strengthen the labor movement, or what Biden should like try to push Congress to do to try to strengthen the labor movement. Because it seems like corporations really have a lot of power in terms of what they can do with like captive audience meetings, like you guys were saying. So I was just wondering about that.
Yeah, I met the man. What you see is what you get. So, do you really want me to go there? All right. You know what? If you think this administration is going to do anything for us, no, the clock's it's been ticking. And on top of that, yeah, I don't rely on Biden for the shit. And damn, I'm not even going to get into what that visit was like. But they didn't play my audio for a reason. Because if you think I went there to take a picture and shake hands, no. I went there and I had a clear-cut demand to have him sign this letter to bring Bezos and bring Jassy, bring these CEOs in. And I was met with pamphlet. They gave me a pamphlet and a Biden chocolate to go. So there's no cavalry coming for us. Understand that. Like, there's no cavalry coming for us. We organize because we have no choice. And our organizing is pushing the NLRB to be more progressive. It's not the other way around. They're not just waking up and say, hey, okay, we're going to go save workers today. That's obviously ain't help. That ain't happening. If we do that, we'll be here another 60 years, you know, with probably 1% of union density by then. So understand that we don't take these risks, launching campaigns, pushing Amazon workers to organize, the Starbucks movement taking off the way it is. We don't organize. None of these laws, none of these remedies that the NLRB is now pushing happen. We have over 200 ULPs, unfair labor practices against Amazon. We can't do any more. We gave them 200. They're sitting up in the board. Like, they're sitting there because the board doesn't even have the capacity to keep up. We have national cease and desist against Amazon, national agreements that were signed against Amazon. Never been done in history. Things that we've done, 10Js, getting people their jobs back, all types of things we have done. We even possibly will be going to court with Andy Jassy in the next few months, like in person, have him on trial because he violated a ULP when he was running his mouth at an interview. That only happens from organizing. So to rely on politicians, rely on the president is the wrong way. It's a mistake. We got to rely on ourselves, our communities, everybody in this room, whether you're on human resources side or whether you're on the union side, it don't matter. We're all in this together, and we all have to help push lawmakers, push politicians to do the right thing, not just get elected off of campaign promises and take union dues. A lot of them, you know, unfortunately, established unions, their union dues is going to these politicians and these campaigns. They get in office and nothing gets done. We as independent, we embrace our misfit as an independent because our Constitution, we don't endorse politicians. I don't give a damn. I love Bernie and all of that, cool. But we're never going to endorse him. We're not going to endorse AOC. We're not going to endorse these progressive, so-called progressives, because they have to do more than just talk about it. There needs to be something in black and white on paper. Some of these laws that are from the 1930s, 40s, need to be done. We're in 2023, the 21st century. This is new school organizing. And if we don't match that energy, these corporations and billionaires are going to continue to exploit us.
Hey, thank you guys so much for being here. So you guys talked about, you're going around to all these different places, talking to students. I got a text the other day from a friend in Baltimore who was like, I want to join a union now. I was like, hell yeah. I'm wondering what your opinion is on like the role that unions, both established and new unions, play in like civic education, but also in class consciousness raising, and how we can like better proliferate you guys coming and talking to us on a wider scale to like hopefully get more people to know how to form unions and then form them themselves.
Yeah, well, this is the reason why we're here. The education part is a vital key that's been missing in this country. If we knew that, I say this all the time now, if I knew I could be as cool as a rapper, as a union organizer, I'd have been doing this years ago, right? If I would have been taught this as a middle schooler and a high schooler, like, I could be myself, but also be cool and also be fighting a good cause, I think that would have sold me. And that goes for the education piece that's been missing, the real history of labor in this country that's been missing in classrooms. We don't get taught that. And on career day, who do they bring? Who they bring in the classrooms on career day? Your police unions, your fire department. Remember those? So instead of them doing that, now bring me and Derek in, talk to y'all. Now bring other labor leaders. Should be Sean O'Brien's and Sarah Nelson's and Liz Schuler's and Randy Weingarten's. I'm a rookie. I'm a rookie. They've been in the game decades. So understanding that these other labor leaders have to step up. These established unions, these are your favorite unions that everybody talk about: Teamsters, AFL-CIO, 1199, SEIU, all of these unions that's been around for over 100 years weren't able to feed Amazon in 29 years, right? It took an independent, guerrilla grassroots organization to do that. We kicked down the door already. So now it's time for everybody to rush the door. Other labor leaders have to not only meet workers where they at, but they have to get to different spaces that labor has never been in. So, people criticize red carpet events and things that we have been invited to, which is ridiculous, because if you think about it, we're making labor appealing. It wasn't cool. Wasn't even talked about. Who the hell was talking about organizing a union 3 years ago or 2 years ago or even last year? So us getting to different spaces, having conversations with different folks in different communities, other labor leaders have to help. It can't just be myself, can't just be Derek, can't just be the Amazon labor unions, can't just be Starbucks. There's other unions that's been here that need to step up. And I said this just a few minutes ago before I came here. No matter what industry, it doesn't matter what organization you're in, whether our movement, whether it's social injustice, environmental, Black Lives Matter, women's rights, gun rights, trans rights, whatever it is, whatever movement you're in, at the end of the day, you're a worker. At the end of the day, the base of our democracy is always going to be labor. That's what's going to bring everybody together, is labor. So other labor leaders, not just myself, need to step up and be on the picket lines for women's rights, be on the picket lines for environmental. You can follow my social media, I've been there. And I continue to do so, and I continue to show up because I know how important it is to have these conversations with just people in general and different movements in general. And if we can continue to do that, we'll now see the fruits of our labor, which is labor is now reaching the younger generation at a younger age where they can get involved at a younger age, not just wait until we fight the good fight. And unfortunately, it takes decades to get, to really reap the benefits of our work that we're putting in. We don't have that time anymore. The clock is ticking. We probably have, 10 years, the planet, if we don't, address climate. So labor has to step up. I know what I'm doing on Earth Day. So this is the moment that we're in now. We're in a revolution. Unfortunately, we're in the wrong country, but it's a slow revolution. It's a slow revolution in this country that we're all a part of. It's just that we have to expedite it. Leaders have to expedite that by leading by example.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming. I have so much respect and admiration for the work that you do, so really, really appreciate you coming out. My question was, if you could talk a little bit more about your strategy for forcing Amazon to the bargaining table, to force them to bargain in good faith, and along those lines, whether you plan to prioritize continuing to build your base and organize more warehouses, or if you're planning on focusing on trying to go up against Amazon in contract negotiations.
Yeah, it's a combination of both. You know, the union doesn't leave the building when we leave, you know? We got to understand that the organizing never stops. It's 24/7. Amazon is 24/7. No, what's going to take to get Amazon to come to the table is going to be not just the union's fight, but the community outcry as well. So this is another reason why I reiterate that this is your fight, because Amazon's #1 fear is their PR in bad. They hate it. They will have a spokesperson, like, I don't know if you've been following us when we went to Kentucky. They had a spokesperson on the ground. I've never seen that. They were so petrified for good reason. For good reason. That's the largest air hub in the Amazon network. It controls 75% of their value. It's going to scale up to about 80, 90% one day. Jeff Bezos donated $1 billion of his own money into that air hub. So they had the spokesperson on the ground at our rally waiting to talk to reporters after we were done, because they were so afraid about the narrative that was going to be out there. So if we as organizers and the community and stand in solidarity, don't shop on Prime until they do better by their workers, that solidarity, understanding that your neighbors, your loved ones, your friends, your family is affected by this, understanding that we can move forward in this movement. And not only that, include everybody. That is going to help Amazon realize that this culture that we created last year is not going anywhere. See it now, but they're of course, they're going to use their $1 million lawyers, install things out legally, which we expect. But what they don't realize is that not only is me and Derek fighters through and through, we're using their own principles against them. One of their own principles, there's 14 of them, is see it, own it, and fix it. It's one of my favorite ones, because we've seen the problems, we own up to it, and now we're trying to fix it. And we're using that against them by owning up to this fight. Now we're trying to fix it. And that doesn't mean just form the union and walk away. That means we're going to see it through. We're going to see it through. We're going to get a contract. And the outside community support, the international solidarity. We just came back from the UK. We just came back from Canada. We just had Amazon workers from Germany stop by our office in Staten Island a few weeks ago. It's growing. We're helping those workers overseas. We're helping workers here in the States. We just launched, the Kentucky Air Hub. We got the California. We still got New York. We still got New Jersey underway. There's other campaigns that are going to open up different avenues. And once again, if we don't organize, nothing gets done. There's no cavalry coming. There's no lawmaker that's going to wake up one day and say, you know what, let's pass the PRO Act. That's not going to happen. By us organizing, that's opening up new ways to collectively bring this company to the table. There's not going to be in good faith on their end. It's going to be because of that outside pressure that's going to bust the pipes and bring them to the table. And hopefully within the next year or two, we'll be in that reach.
Hi, Chris and Derek. Thank you for coming here. My question is, so what is the long-term vision that you have for companies like Amazon? Should they be nationalized? Should they be 100% unionized? Should they be broken up or turned into worker-owned worker co-ops? What is your vision for companies like Amazon that have so much power and influence, arguably more than most countries in the world?
Yeah, I mean,
Thank
well,
you.
the goal ultimately is to unionize all the shops in the United States and, you know, in other countries too. But, you know, again, like Chris said, you know, it's gonna take, you know, community outreach. It's gonna take all of us together to fight against Amazon. But yeah, you know, like the way they treat workers is just disrespectful. But the workers have to overcome that fear of getting, you know, retaliated against for speaking out against unions. So us getting this contract is so important, and, you know, solidifying us, you know, as, you know, a really powerful union, so that other unions can now follow in our footsteps. You know, we kick down the door, everyone else has to follow through and you know, and do this thing, do what's right for us, basically.
Building off of what you were saying earlier about the importance of like unionizing to show like to the value of the working class of America. I was thinking about like how even on Cornell's campus, there are a lot of student workers. For example, like senior students often serve as like teaching assistants for courses to teach the freshmen and younger students. And I wouldn't like accuse the university of acting in bad faith, but like sometimes we don't have that much control over over exactly what tasks we're given or what deadlines we get or like the pay that we get. And the university hires and fires people every semester. So like similar to what you were saying about high turnover, what strategies do you think are appropriate for this kind of situation where we might not even have the time, like the time frame to get awareness spread?
You gotta put me in the hot seat, huh? There's more of y'all than there's of them. Oh man, you know what? You're seeing the uprising of universities across the country. They're doing it. You know, I know you guys have seen the strikes and protests. I've been at a lot of them, and you know, I stand with whatever organizing is going to take place here. Of course, you know, honestly, I always say this: do it for the next person, even if you're not going to be here long, or you know that you have an expiration date. It's fine, but this fight is for the next person. So if you're going to fight, do it. I support it. And whatever the cause is, just hit my line. We'll be back. We'll be back whether we're speaking to y'all or whether we're on the picket lines. That's how we show.
I just want to say I'm a big fan of you. So thanks for being here. And I was wondering how, since you're in such fierce opposition with most conventional ideas, how do you still manage to command respect and leverage material power?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, we didn't have shit. We never had shit. And that's what, you know, coming from the bottom like we did to be where we at. Our expectations for help is it's slim. We have slim pickings, and we embraced that years ago. That's what people fail to realize. You know, we didn't have any support the way other established unions have. Never did. When we won last year, we had $2.50 in our account. Every major media outlet already wrote off, had the headlines on day 2 of the vote count that we already lost the election. Meanwhile, we were winning the entire time, and we won by over more than 5%. So whether we get the help or not, we know we're going to do the work. You put in the work. What you put into the movement is what you get out of it. So people are upset about, you know, me reaching a plateau and this and that and the third. It's silly to me because I put in the work every day. I get up every day. I live, breathe, and really blood, sweat, and tears pour into this movement every single day. They would never understand that. You know, I can show you 70,000 emails in my phone right now that shows otherwise. And the conversations, the horror stories that me and Derek hear every day, the average person would not even know what to deal with it. It will drive you insane if you're not built for this. And it's okay. People have to understand that organizing is not for everybody. They get inspired, they see things online, they see movements, and they're like, yeah, I want to do it. Then they try to do it, they realize like, shit is hard. And they walk away or they leave the movements or whatever they do. You know, these things happen all the time. So as an organizer, you have to commit yourself to whatever comes in the territory. We did that a long time ago. Whether we get the support that we deserve or we do not get it, that doesn't stop me and Derek from getting up and advocating for workers' rights. That is free. Love and solidarity is free. Unfortunately, solidarity part is the problem in this country. There's not real solidarity. It's like piggyback. It's like bandwagon solidarity. And that only goes but so far. So, you know, unfortunately, this is a problem that we have as far as dividing workers. We have to address that at the root cause. And the root cause is labor leaders, not just myself, other leaders in this country. We all have to step up at the same time. We all have to move on the same accord. But unfortunately, the independency of us not being a part of a coalition or us not being a part of a council with other unions, established unions, that they isolate us, the rip, you know, and that's the problem. It's like, how do you support workers? And what's the ultimate power? The workers in the driver's seat. But the top bottom unions, they don't see it that way. You know, we're starting to change that narrative, but we're not only battling Amazon, as you can imagine. If you think that we're just battling Amazon, you're wrong. We're battling Amazon, we're battling the government, we're battling establishment, we're battling established unions. It's unfortunate because that's the real reality of it. And me, if I go out on Twitter tonight and say, you know what, man, I'm pissed off at all these other unions, and I start listing them and naming, you know what people gonna do to me? They're gonna be like, oh, you're being divisive and you're being this, that, and the third, or you're being the angry black man, right? That's what they're gonna do. And it's really like, no, I'm actually crying for help because Amazon's been around for 29 years. You guys didn't get it done. We did. Instead of trying to support what we're doing, you guys are trying to say, oh, let's form the Teamsters, for example. Let's form an Amazon division. How would you spend, you got $350 million in strike funds. Why would you form an Amazon division where you could just give us a couple pennies and see what we could do with that? Give these workers the support that they need and see what they can do with that. Don't furthermore the division by thinking you can do it better or thinking you could do it just as good, because it, as you can see, as an 8-year Amazon vet, Derek Palmer, vice president of the Amazon, still currently work there, 40, 50 hours a week. Who's a better organizer against Amazon than him? Literally, right? So I know it's my opportunity, but you know, one of your experts left, but you know, there was a comment that we saw when we did this interview with BBC. And the comment said that my celebrity status has disconnected me from Amazon workers. And that came from somebody who just left the room. I ain't going, but I'll let y'all put the two and two together. Anyway, so the reason why I bring that up is because that's the narratives that divide workers. That's the narratives that divide the movements. It can't come from the same side, right? It can't come from our side. If you want to know what's going on in these fights and these movements, what you do is you get involved. And to have all these critics about me from people who never met me, that don't know shit about me, don't know who I am as a person, don't know what type of fighter I am, but just read articles and read media, you would never understand what the struggle is if you're doing it that way. On the ground organizing, grassroots campaigns, established unions, organizations in this country, no matter what you're doing, they all got internal issues. Every last one of them. That's not news for the public, but because the Amazon Labor Union is such a high profile organization, or the amount of media attention we garnish with our victory, historical victory, other people feel like our victory belongs to them. Like they were there and like they knew exactly what we did to be successful. The words that we say today, you guys still won't understand what it took to be Amazon. Even when the documentary come out, because there is one that'll eventually come out, followed by books and movies and whatever else comes with that, there will be things that you guys will visually see, and that still won't give y'all what we had to go through on the ground during that campaign. You guys will never understand that. We literally had to put our lives on the line every day, and still do every day. We don't babble with security. We don't act like celebrities and, like, oh, we're not talking to this person, but we'll talk to that person. We're people. We're workers. I was a worker who was fired years ago. Derek Palmer is a current worker who was retaliated against, still get retaliated against every so often. We can't forget that narrative, that we're workers at the end of the day. We're trying to do the right thing. Don't let the media, don't let propaganda confuse you and divide you, because that's what they want. They want to have narratives to try to beat me up to be some celebrity organizer. There's no such thing as a celebrity organizer. You know what I mean? There's something that was historical. It resonated with the world. I'm happy for that, but that's not who I am as a person. As a person, I'm somebody that you could come up to. You can give me a hug, you can give me a 5, you can curse me out. I'm a real person that have real feelings, and I care about the shit that I fight for every day. And I pour my blood, sweat, and tears into this ever since I've been fired. And the people around me are the only ones that get to experience that. But if you're in the fight, you also experience that. If you see me in other events, if you see me whatever, labor notes or rallies, picket lines, if you see me, you would know that the media is not doing us justice. Understand that we, as the people, we have to create our own propaganda. We don't have the trillions of dollars like Amazon. We don't have the money and resources to buy the Washington Post. We don't have that. So sticking together, no matter what the issues are, the petty shit, we got to put aside. That's real solidarity. When you can get hit on the chin, say, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care what your difference is. The boss, the enemy is the boss. If we all can remember that, then we'll be fine. We can move the labor movement forward. But until then, we're going to remain divided. We're going to remain struggling to even move forward as people. And we're worried about little stupid narratives that are being put out there. If you want to know what's going on in the fight, you got to get in it. That's just it. You have to fight yourself.
I want to say again, thank you all for coming. It's great to have you here. I'm not actually in ILR, but I'm here because we organized Bang's Ambulance, our local ambulance agency. I needed that, thank you. But I was on the OC acting secretary now. We still don't have contract negotiations going. But we went through some of the, it's a very different situation, like tiny company, like our bargaining unit's like 45 people or something like that, family owned. We ended up with by the end of it, between the struggles between business unionism versus like grassroots organizing, we ended up with a fairly divided workplace. We won our election by a little over 50%. We're now dealing with people who are basically calling us the devil. I'm sitting there like, man, I'm trying to get you a raise. But I guess, and I apologize if this is treading over like old ground, but my question is, what do you say to a worker who is just so deeply resistant to their own liberation?
Yeah, that's a tough question, my guy. You know what? Don't talk about organizing. You know them personally? How well do you know them? Exactly. So if that's your answer, then that means not well enough, because when you're talking about organizing, we are already radicalized. No, we know the bullshit. We know what we're talking about and why we're fighting as organizers. We can't go into our job and scream out capitalism. They're gonna look at what the fuck are you talking about? So befriend them first. Take them outside of the work element. Take them out to a bar. Find out what they like to do on their days off. Play video games with them. Play cards with them. Find out where their children go to school. Find out what their personal life is like. Cause guess I'm hitting a note there. That'll help you have conversations with them. And one rule about organizing is 90% of it is listening. They say 70%, but I say 90%. 90% is listening. So understand, let them talk. Ask them what their issues is, what they could change about the workplace. Don't even talk about the union. Don't talk about nothing that has to do with organizing. Just try to befriend them first, personalize the conversation. And then if you can get them outside of work more often and y'all can hang out, buddy, then you can start to understand how to approach them when it comes to the demands that you're fighting for. So try that. Hopefully that works, because we do a great job of that as well. We understand that working in a warehouse 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and you're seeing these four walls and no windows, and that plays a lot on people's, mental well-being. So for us, getting workers to a local bar, a restaurant, to a venue where they feel comfortable, more relaxed, don't feel like they're surveilled by the boss, our conversations start to change. And that's what you guys got to do as well.
All right, I know you guys have your hands up, but I'm gonna ask a question now. So this question is for the VP of the ALU, for Derek. I know that you've said before in the past that, you work at Amazon for like 8 years, right? And there's been a lot of systemic racism that you guys actually also dealt with while you were in the workplace. You also mentioned, both of you mentioned like the fact that like the numbers and the ratings that your team specifically had. So my question is to you is more just, can you talk to us about how you build those relationships and gain the respect and the trust of your coworkers as a fellow worker? And what was your experience as a Black man doing this?
Good question. Well, number one, we were like the number one team, like as far as production wise, in our department in picking. So I think that alone, gave us the respect, that we deserve from the workers. And also, like, I was an ambassador. So an ambassador, they basically train all the new hires in whatever specific role that they're in, whether it's picking, packing, or stowing, or ship dock, or whatever. And I did that for about 5 years. So I think that really gave me an advantage, especially, building that trust when it was time to actually start organizing. So like I would have my ambassador vest on, and people would come to me before we even started the union drive asking me questions on tips on how to do better at Amazon, or just really, I was like a therapist, low key. Like I didn't realize this shit. So workers would come to me and tell me all the issues, and and they would tell other people, hey, you know what? If you're having a bad day, you can literally go talk to Derek, or you can literally go talk to Chris. So we were already solidified leaders in that building before we even started. And I think that really played like a big role in the success of us winning. But being, an African-American in Amazon, you would think you would have advantages because majority of the workers are Black and brown. But if you look at the management side, they're mostly white. So, that experience alone will discourage you if you're trying to just move up and, have your voice be heard to management. There's been plenty of times where I go into, the main office and to have a meeting with the general manager of the building about good ideas that they can implement in each department so that workers will feel like management cares about them. They took those ideas and they didn't give me credit for it. They take anyone's ideas, especially if they're Black and brown, and just use them and then just say, you know what, we're not going to give you the credit for it, but we're going to do it. And just the fact that they're taking those ideas from us, from the Black and brown workers, and not moving us up lets you know that how they feel about us.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you again for being here. I'm not asking you to get into the petty shit that you talked about earlier, but could you talk to some of the strengths and benefits that you found about independently organizing? And do you think that this is the future of the labor movement?
Well, do I recommend that you start your own union? I'm gonna tell you now, it's hard as hell. I do encourage you to organize whichever way you see fit. Independently is the gift and the curse. We're learning that every day. Unfortunately, the hard way. As an independent union, like I just said, when we won last year, the labor movement, rightfully so, along with everybody and their mother, they jumped on the bandwagon, and unfortunately, what I was just referring to is now we're at a point in time when we go to these other buildings, they done talk to like 4 or 5 different unions. What confuses the workers, like, well, I just spoke to Teamsters last week and I just spoke to the AFL, then I just spoke to the APWU. Like, well, we're Amazon labor union and we're Amazon workers. I'm like, I think we're your best shot. But now workers are conflicted because they're like, oh, well, these powerful unions that's been here, they got resources and all of that. And I'm like, well, yeah, we got resources. We have resources too, but what they fail to realize is that we're made up of Amazon workers, whether we're former or current. If you don't, the Teamsters and all these unions, they didn't just start off with 1 million+ workers. It started from somewhere. We have to get the same opportunity. And I feel as an independent, we're not given that. It's not fair that we have to fight for it. And we still have to fight to even, to prove to people that we're even worthy of it, which is ridiculous. It's like, well, we took on the impossible and we already proved that we can beat them. There's no need for us to be divided. As an independent, just support us. That's all we're asking for. And that doesn't divide the labor movement. What it does is it recognizes that there's some disconnects inside of the established unions. And it's fine to hold unions accountable. It's not a bad thing. I've learned from just traveling this past summer to all these different union conferences, giving out all these keynotes. I'm giving out keynotes to motivate your members, make it make sense. So, like once again, I still consider myself, and me and Derek, we're rookies. Guess what? Our birthday for the Amazon Labor Union is this Thursday, 4/20. 4/20. It's our first year. So even though we've been fighting for workers' rights for the last 3 years, the union and the campaign less than a year. Like Thursday will be our first birthday as an Amazon, and we're still struggling to even get the support that we should already have. And that's a shame. You know, that's a shame. And it's only because we're independent. If we would have joined on, I promise you we wouldn't have the same conversation right now. But unfortunately, we chose to go independent because our representation, like Derek was alluding to, the fact that majority of Amazon workers are Black and brown, majority of management, 70% of management in Amazon is white or Asian for management. And as you get even, it gets less dense as you get up, up like close to Andy Jassy level, right? The S team, for example, the S team, I think it's like 9 or 10 people. 2020, when I got fired, after all of that racist stuff came out about them calling me not smart or articulate, and ironically to make me the face of the whole unionizing efforts, a few weeks after that, for the first time in 29 years, they put a Black woman on the S team. Why do you think they did that? You know, to say that there's some representation, that they care about Black Lives Matter, George Floyd was going on, Breonna Taylor. So they do things to protect their PR, make it look like they're caring about workers, Black and brown workers, but they don't. They don't do nothing. She ain't gonna have no power up there. She's just a mouthpiece. She's just gonna be a photo op. No, so we, once again, have to be our own Calvary. We have to protect our identity. You think they like the fact that I'm the leader of this movement? Hell no. This is why you're starting to see these negative articles. Less than a year. I just told y'all our birthday's Thursday, but already they're trying to erase our voices, change our narratives, make it look like we're disconnected, make it look like I'm some celebrity, make it look like I'm just jet setting all over the world. And none of that is true. If it was true, we would never be here. We would never been able to get to where we at if that was true. We are still with the same fire as we were when we walked out 3 years ago. That's me and him for sure. As long as the core is intact, I know that what we're doing is gonna work out. It's just, how do we connect the community with that so that you guys understand that this is a long process? That's the reason why we're here, to have these in-person conversations. So now when y'all do see the future propaganda, because it will be more, the other side is mobilizing against us. You see this stuff, you can now say, you know what? I know Chris and Derek. I can talk to them directly. I have conversations with them. This ain't true. I'm going to help these guys out because I know that they're fighting for my rights. They're fighting for my future, my children's future. So that's where we at, unfortunately. But I give you guys the real, because speaking truth to power is what got us here. And we're not in the business of lying. That's Amazon's mo. They do enough of that. We're going to give you guys the truth. You're hearing it from actual current worker of 8 years and a former worker who we both opened that building in 2018. And we were there for over 3 years, still going for him. But for me, at least, I lasted 3 years in that building before they finally got me. But before that, I opened up 2 buildings prior to that, my 3rd building. So the investment to the workers is deep. They would never fathom that. The same people that fired me in 2020, I had the pleasure of watching them get fired when we won last year. So understand that this fight, even though it was 4 years later, or whatever years later, from the day I met them, talking about from 2015 to the day they fired me, these are people that I've seen at Amazon come in, managers, upper management, that was trained by entry-level workers like myself, and now they became general managers, and they now union busting, and they lost. And then the next day they got fired, or they got moved or whatever. That doesn't happen unless we fight. So, once again, this fight is your fight. And we have to remember that at all times.
Thanks so much. And the question that I had that I was formulating, you were really, as you were talking, I thought, well, that's where I want to go, which is how do you play the long game, right? Because we need victories, and we get victories, we celebrate them. And at the same time, how should we all, as part of the labor movement, play the long game and recognize that there are going to be lots of battles and lots of defeats along the way, but it's still the long game. And I'm just going to refer back to last week, we had a wonderful panel on Southern workers unionizing and organizing. And Maria Harmon from Step Up Louisiana said, they do a lot of social justice organizing, and that they got a comment from somebody, I think it was in the legislature, where the comment was, well, gee, you guys keep, you take a lot of losses, but you keep coming back. And she said, yeah, right, that's what we're about. So it's that idea of what enables us to play the long game in a society that always wants quick fixes. Yeah.
Exactly. Blame Amazon's 2-day shipping for that. That's the problem is, once again, like you said, society wants, we won last year. They're like, where's the contract? I'm like, we would love to have a contract already. We would love for this fight to be over, but it's never over. And the infancy stage of our campaign, the expectations are insane for us. It blows my mind how people expect us to do all of this as a worker-led union with no real backing. So, trying to figure out the best way to answer this, like, how do you stay involved? Really, you take it day by day. Small victories matter, and we amplify those as much as possible. Like when we got certified, that was a historical moment, being certified by the National Labor Relations Board. After Amazon appealed and had us in court for like 8 months, and they had over 25 objections, to defeat them and do it in the fashion that we did was historical by itself. The ULPs that we filed, over 150, almost 200 ULPs, the national cease and desist orders, the 10Js that we have for these workers, the meeting with Jennifer Abruzzo, that doesn't happen unless we organize and launch these other campaigns, whether they're wins or losses. Like, even though we lost 2 campaigns already, we gave workers the opportunity to vote for a union. That's the best support that we can do. We can't walk inside these other buildings. We're only allowed to be in JFK, right? We don't have jurisdiction. As a worker-led union, I can't go to wherever and say, you know what, you guys can't do this. Not ready yet. Go whenever the workers are ready. We don't tell them yes or no. We tell them we're going to support them. If they're ready to file for an election, guess what? You damn it, we're going to file for an election. We're going to take that shot. We're going to take that risk, because while we're doing that, we're exposing Amazon's malpractices and the illegal things that they're doing. Albany was so bad. It broke so many laws with that campaign in Albany that now that building is actually ahead of JFK when it comes to a bargaining order, because that NLRB Region 3 has gave a bargaining order to the Starbucks campaign. So what do you think the board told us to do? File for a bargaining order, even though we lost the election, because they can prove, and we can definitively prove, that they broke the law so bad that it did not give the workers a fair chance to vote. So we have all of that evidence. We keep all of that. We collect that data, and we use that to go into these other campaigns. Whether they're a win or not, it's never a loss until you give up. And that's what people don't understand. It's never a loss until you give up. Campaigns, wins or losses, who cares? If the workers continue to organize, there's still a union presence in that building. That's what's happening, whether we lost campaigns or not. There's still hundreds of workers who voted yes that we cannot just abandon. We still represent them. We still file ULPs for them. They still call our phones. We still keep in contact with every building that we're involved with, because we know we don't do it, nobody else is going to do it for them. So understanding that we take things day by day. We don't really try to overwhelm ourselves with what's going to happen, a year or two from now. We have to just focus on next week, on tomorrow, on today. And that goes for anybody that's organizing, not to burn yourself out, because it's very stressful, it's very strenuous on everything in your life. Organizing, it changes your whole life. In order for you to keep going, you have to find time to have fun. We incorporate fun in our organizing all the time. You got to have time to celebrate small victories. Like Starbucks, I see all the Starbucks t-shirts in here. You guys, y'all did a great thing bringing Howard Schultz in. That's a victory. Celebrate it. Like pop bottles. I don't care. Do what you do, because you guys got a billionaire to embarrass himself. So that is a victory. And we're hoping to do the same thing. Yeah, clap it up for them. So these victories matter, and not only do we have to claim these victories, the day-to-day, getting up with that same fire, like I just said a few moments ago, we have the same fire that we had when we walked out for COVID. Because if we as leaders, if we show that we're defeated, we walk around with our head down, you guys are going to feed off of that energy. And like, those are not real leaders. No, I can't follow losers. Like, these guys, they don't look like whatever, right? They don't look like they have the confidence. But you cannot tell me, after all of our interviews, all of the things we've done, that we're not leaders that lead by example, or that don't gravitate to people. Leaders lead and activists activate. And leaders' job is to activate the activists. So understand that everybody can't be a leader. You got roles to play. There's leaders and there's activists. So understand your role and embrace it. If you're a leader, naturally, people will gravitate to you, or you'll be elevated into that position. You'll know when to do it, when to take the front seat, and know when to take the back seat as a leader. That's important. And activists, you'll know when to be activated. Your leader is going to make the first move by leading by example, and you're going to follow without even questioning it. So when Derek shuts down the captive audience, you got 10 other people in that same room that's going to stand up with the ALU shirt on, because they know what's up. There's no question about that. And that militancy is resonating in the shop floor. We only had to shut down one captive audience. And guess what? That one rumor lasted the entire week. We didn't even shut it down, by the way. Newsflash. All we did was have the threat of shutting it down, because we told workers we're going to shut the shit down. And that rumor, not only did Amazon cancel the captive audience for the rest of the day, but that rumor spread the night shift, it spread to the next day. And then for the entire week, all we heard was ALU shut down the captive audience. Did you hear about that? So leaders leading by example, being activated while activating activists, is the longevity of these fights. You got to be, whenever your card is called, you got to be ready. It's just like playing sports. You come off the bench, you go back on the bench, you be in the starting lineup, change rotation, you change coaches, but the fight and the game is still the same. Same tactics, same rules, same fundamentals. You just have to know what position that you're in and how to move forward in that and embrace it.
Well, thank you all so much. I want us a reminder, we're out of time, but if we can just give one more round of applause for our labor leaders and residents. And reminder that
before y'all leave, look to your left and look to your right and say, I got your back.
Your back.
I got your back.
I got your back.
I got your back. Power to the people, y'all.